أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين شفيع المذنبين رحمة للعالمين مولانا وسيدنا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ومعادن حكمة الله. This is the new line that we are on. وَمَعَادِنِ حِكْمَةِ اللَّهِ. Ma'adin, actually we've already had this in the form of ma'adin. This was one of our earliest discussions. And ma'adin is the plural of ma'adin, and we have already discussed this before. At that point we said that ma'adin, it comes from the root of adn. Adn means to settle along with fondness, joy and contentment. So ma'adin is a place of settling along with fondness, joy and contentment. This is why, for example, heaven is called Jannatu Adnin, because it is a place of settling with this kind of joy and fondness and contentment. So ma'adin is plural of ma'adin. These are the places in which something is settling with fondness and joy. What is settling? Hikmat. Not any old hikmat, hikmatullah. The hikmat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We'll discuss exactly the nature of hikmat in a short while. Hikmat itself comes from the root of hakama. So hukam, from the same root, means to prevent injustice. And hikmat is a particular type of hukam because it prevents a person from ignorance. That's why hikmat is known as hikmat. A correct government which runs properly and wisely is called hukuma or hukumat, because it protects its citizens from internal and external issues and threats and gives a good order and system to the country. So here what we are saying is that salams to you, O Imams of Ahlul Bayt, you are the places in which the wisdom of Allah settles. Now regarding hikmat, this is going to be our main discussion. Without a doubt, many people have got hikmat. The Qur'an mentions a number of them. And therefore, these people can be termed as wise, because we will translate hikmat as wisdom. So in the Quran, we have a few references to those endowed with hikmat. لَقَدْ آتَيْنَا لُقْمَانَ الْحِكْمَةِ. For example, we gave to Luqman wisdom. Nabi Dawood. وَقَتَلَ دَاوُودَ جَالُوتَ وَآتَاهُ اللَّهُ الْمُلْكَ وَالْحِكْمَةِ. And for example, Al Ibrahim as well. فَقَدْ آتَيْنَا آلَ إِبْرَاهِيمَ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةِ. We gave all of these different people and groups some wisdom. So what Ayatollah Jawadi says is that the prophets of Allah were the ones who first brought true wisdom to this world, and people learn from them. So any instance of wisdom that you see in the world today, whether it's a Muslim, non-Muslim or whatever, if it's true wisdom, then that has been taken from the prophets of Allah, because wisdom comes from Allah and it can only be taken from Allah, and therefore He gives it to the prophets to bring to the earth and teach people. And then whatever wisdom you see today is from the wisdom of Allah, somehow or some way, indirectly, directly, however you want to call it, it is from that source. And of course, Allah in the Quran, He makes another point. He says we can give hikmah to whomever we wish. So hikmah is not something that is exclusive, we can say, to only the prophets or only Ahlul Bayt. No, hikmah can be given to many, many different people. So therefore, the question arises, then what is so special about the Imams? Why do we single them out in this Ziyarat and say that they are the ma'adin hikmatillah? What is so special about the Imams? Well, there are three main points. Number one, they are the source of wisdom as far as the creatures are concerned. After Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is the source of everything good, after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when we talk about, for example, where do we get our wisdom from? We get it from the Imams. Where do they get it from? They get it from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number two, it starts with them and then flows to others. They're the source. They're the ones that give this to everybody from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but then we take it from the Imams. And number three, people will only take as much wisdom as their capacity allows. No one can take anything more than their capacity. Imams, on the other hand, have, like, the most capacity or unlimited capacity in terms of their human capacity. It is more than anyone. We cannot put a limit on it. So they take the absolute maximum amount that any creature can take is in the Imams. Hence, the Holy Prophet says that to benefit truly from wisdom, one has to use the correct door, which is, of course, the door of Amirul Mu'mineen. أنا مدينة الحكمة وعلي بابها فمن أراد الحكمة فليأت الباب. This has been narrated both in terms of أنا مدينة الحكمة and أنا مدينة العلم. So the Holy Prophet here is saying, I am the city of wisdom. Ali alayhi salam is the door. So whoever wishes to approach wisdom has to go through the door. Another special point about the Imams which we can mention, that it is not only Amirul Mu'mineen, because they are all one reality. We've discussed this many, many times in these sessions. They are all from Noor Wahid, from a single Noor, from a single reality. We will say that all the Imams, all 12 of the Imams, are the inheritors of Rasulullah, and hence they represent everything that he represented, except, of course, for those few things which are exclusive to him. For example, receiving the wahy of the Qur'an, for example, wahy tashri'i. We've discussed this already. Yes, apart from those few things, they are not prophets, but they are Imams. Everything else that he stood for, they also represent. So Rasulullah was tasked with teaching Kitab wal Hikmah, and therefore the Imams are also charged with teaching Kitab wal Hikmah. It comes from them, it flows from them. هو الذي بعث في الأميين رسولا منهم يتلو عليهم آياته ويزكيهم ويعلمهم الكتاب والحكمة. Imams also are يعلمهم الكتاب والحكمة. They also teach people the book and wisdom. So in short, until now, 3 points. Number one, Rasulullah has taken this wisdom from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah has graced the Holy Prophet with his wisdom. Number two, Imams inherit this quality from Rasulullah because they are linked with the Holy Prophet. They are from that same essence and same nur and same reality. And then number three, people learn this wisdom from them according to their own capacities. Regarding wisdom, well, we say that it starts with Allah, and actually it's one of his names. Allah is Hakim, so he is ultimately wise. He is the wise. So other things which we say have wisdom, such as Qur'an, we say Qur'an is a book of wisdom. Luqman had wisdom. Other prophets have wisdom. What is all of this? This is just a manifestation of the name of Allah, the quality of Allah, the attribute of Allah. You can see that attribute to a lesser extent in some of the creatures of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So everything starts with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is the absolute source. There is no goodness that exists in this universe or anywhere except that it has to start with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah's wisdom, we can separate it into two categories. It can be in terms of knowledge. So when we say that Allah's wise, we can say that he has a deep, thorough, proper, profound knowledge and understanding of all things. Nothing is hidden from him. Nothing can be unknown to him. Whatever is known by Allah to its absolute depth and final degree. It can also be in action. So we will say that everything Allah does, all the decisions he makes, all the systems he's put in place, all the ways he's created this universe, all the ways he's created barzakh and hereafter, every single thing is based on wisdom. This is why we never ever say that something is coincidence or chance or it just happened. No, it is all based on Allah's wisdom. The next point is that wisdom is like the other graces of God which he bestows and gives. So what does he do? He first gives it to Ahlul Bayt alayhimu salam, and then everyone else takes from them according to their capacity. So therefore, all of mankind, including the prophets, are either the direct or indirect students of the Imams regarding wisdom. Look at this verse from Surah Baqarah, verse number 151. Kama arsalna fikum rasulan minkum yatlu alaykum ayatina wa yuzakkikum. We sent to you an apostle from amongst yourselves who recites to you our signs and purifies you. Wa yu'allimukumul kitab. He teaches you the book, wal hikmah, and wisdom. Wa yu'allimukum ma lam takunu ta'lamun. He teaches you what you did not know. In other words, without him, you would not have any wisdom. We gave it to him. He gives it to you. You learn from him. He learns from us. Now, some people, they get a little bit confused here because then they say, well, we have this other verse in Surah An-Nisa 113. What about this verse? And they say, for example, that this verse shows that the Holy Prophet is like anyone else. He also learns like everyone else. The verse is as follows. وَأَنزَلَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْكَ الْكِتَابِ. Now it's only addressed in the singular, alayka, to the Holy Prophet. وَأَنزَلَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْكَ الْكِتَابِ. Allah has sent down to you the book, وَالْحِكْمَةِ, and wisdom. وَعَلَّمَكَ مَا لَمْ تَكُنْ تَعْلَمْ. He has taught you what you did not know. So now, is this a problem? Do we say, oh, this shows that Rasulullah was in the same category as everyone else? He was also learning as he was going along. He was also learning and progressing. He was also developing. We will not say this. This verse is 100% true. Of course, the Holy Prophet learned from Allah. Of course, where else would he get the knowledge from? Of course, when the Holy Prophet was created by Allah, Allah gave him his abilities. Allah gave him his knowledge. Allah gave him everything. No one can have anything in this universe apart from that it is from Allah. So this verse is absolutely in harmony with what we're saying. So in the first verse from Surah Baqarah, it is in plural. The Prophet teaches you all. And in this verse, which is singular, yes, of course the Prophet learns from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This doesn't mean he's in the same category as us. Then we have a number of different discussions. I'm going to go through these very, very quickly. They're very interesting actually, but I'll just highlight the main points. We have, for example, then that in the same line of thought from Imam Muhammad Baqir alayhi salam, he has a discussion with someone and he is making a point here. He says that let everyone go wherever they want to go. Let them go to all the different places that they think they'll get knowledge from. Let them go here and there. لِيَذْهَبُوا حَيْثُ شَاءُوا. Let them go wherever they want. Ama wallahi, but they will find, I swear by Allah, they will find. لا يجدون العلم إلا ها هنا. They will not find knowledge except what is with us. And then he paused and then he made the point again. عند آل محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم. He says, by here I mean with the progeny of Rasulullah. What if, the question arises here, what if there is something that is not from this household? Shaitan, for example, he has lots of ideas, he has lots of cunning plans. Is that from Ali Muhammad? What about Muawiyah, Amr ibn As? Is that from Ali Muhammad? No. Then, in that case, if there is something there that is a good idea or is a cunning plan or is an evil plan, we won't say that is wisdom. Non-pious, non-Muslim, whatever it is. But if they're saying something wise, it's okay. You can benefit from that. Filter out everything else. Filter out that person as well. You don't have to give him any respect. But maybe he said something wise. That's fine. وَالْحِكْمَةُ ضَالَةُ الْمُؤْمِنِ. In another hadith. وَالْحِكْمَةُ ضَالَةُ الْمُؤْمِنِ. And wisdom is the lost property of a believer. فَاتْلُبُوهَا. Seek it. وَلَوْ عِنْدَ الْمُشْرِكِ. Even if it is from a mushrik, a polytheist. تَكُونُ أَحَقَّ بِهَا. It is more suitable for you to acquire it, وَأَهْلِهَا, and the people of that wisdom. So, in other words, some people have wisdoms who are not on the straight path. Take that wisdom from them, learn from them. It belongs to you. It's your lost property. Then, again, Agha, he makes some beautiful points. He says, once you have the wisdom, inshallah, may Allah give us all wisdom, but once you have it, be careful with it. Is it to be shared with everybody? Is it to be blurted out to everybody? You know, we have a big problem these days. Some of our speakers, they don't know when to speak and when to remain quiet. They blurt out everything everywhere, thinking that everyone is like, as clever as they are. Or everyone has been to Hausa, or everyone knows these skills and these sciences. No, this is foolish. Agha says, be very careful with wisdom. Be very careful whom you share it with. Would you just share your gold and silver with any old person? Would you be careful? Would you share your, for example, property with any old person, or you would be careful? He says it's like throwing gold in front of a dog and telling him, go ahead, run with this, do what you want. No one would do that. Hikmah is very, very valuable. It has to be shared appropriately and properly. Here we have a hadith which says, لا تؤتوا الحكمة غير أهلها فتظلموها. Do not share wisdom with the people who are not qualified for it. In that case, if you do that, you will have done zulm to that wisdom. This is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You have to look after it. You have to be careful with whom you share, what you share, how you share. This comes with experience, and also it comes with wisdom. Is there a way to produce wisdom? Can we get wisdom, or do we just have to wait for it to come to us? So Allah gives wisdom, but there is a way that you can actually cause it to come to you. And how is that? It is through ikhlas, sincerity. Sincerity here means dedicating yourself and everything you do only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There are some a'mal, if we do it to show off, if we do it for other reasons other than for Allah, then it can become batil even. For example, our namaz, if we do it for anyone else other than Allah, that namaz becomes batil. Once you train yourself and everything you do is for Allah, then that can produce wisdom. Man akhlasa lillahi, this is the famous hadith of the Holy Prophet. Man akhlasa lillahi, someone who can keep himself sincere and mukhlis, arba'ina yawman, for 40 days. Fajjarallahu yanabi al-hikmah, Allah will cause the springs of wisdom to flow min qalbihi ala lisanihi, from his heart to his tongue. All of a sudden, he'll be inspired by God. The things he says will be wise. The things he does will be wise. He will become a wiser person. This is one way of gaining hikmat and wisdom in ourselves. On the other hand, we have, for example, from Janabi Fatima, salamullahi alayha. She also has a very beautiful hadith in this. Man as'ada ilallahi, someone who does actions, and these actions are pure and done for the sake of Allah, and they rise to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Man as'ada ilallahi khalisa ibadatihi, someone who performs very sincere and pure ibadat for Allah, ahbatallahu azza wa jalla ilayhi afdala maslihatihi, Allah will cause to descend upon that person the best of his plans and wisdoms and strategies and this kind of thing. Even higher than this, Agha Jawadi says, not only our acts should be for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but even ourselves, our whole being, our core, who we are, what we are, this can also be trained for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he gives the example of Baby Maryam, where Allah says, فَتَقَبَّلَهَا رَبُّهَا بِقُبُولٍ حَسَنٍ. Her Lord accepted her. Not only her deeds, accepted her as a person. Then he gives a very nice warning. He says, now what if someone comes along and says, okay, I will try to be sincere for the sake of wisdom. I want wisdom. I really want to become a wiser person. So I'm going to train myself to become sincere for the sake of gaining that wisdom. He says, here you will not succeed, because this is not for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is a little bit of selfishness you've put in there. Because you want wisdom to come to you, wisdom won't come to you. Because you're not doing it for Allah, you're doing it for example, wisdom. Wisdom is not Allah. Allah is the source of wisdom, yes, but you must do everything for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What can prevent wisdom? What can shut us off from wisdom? He mentions two things. He says that number one, overindulging in overeating and other such pleasures, and number two, greed. These two things can prevent a person from gaining wisdom. From the Holy Prophet, إِذَا رَأَيْتُمْ أَهْلَ الْجُوعِ وَالتَّفَكُّرِ, whenever you see the people of hunger and the people of deep thought, فَدْنُوا مِنْهُمْ, be humble to them. Keep their company in a humble way. فَإِنَّ الْحِكْمَةَ تَجْرِي عَلَىٰ أَلْسِنَتِهِمْ, because wisdom will surely flow upon their tongues. And then he says, التَّمَعُ يُذْهِبُ الْحِكْمَةِ, greed removes wisdom min qulubil ulama, from the hearts of even the learned ones. This is an issue as well these days, the greed which may be creeping into some people. This is also a problem. They will not benefit from the wisdom that was maybe going to come to them because of their greed and because of their overindulging in these things. So wisdom, to conclude, is so closely linked with Allah. This is our final point. Wisdom is so closely linked with Allah because it is from Allah. It is one of His names. It is one of His qualities and attributes. For wisdom to settle in anyone's heart, that person also has to be linked with Allah. Does it make sense that we say wisdom is from Allah, but someone who's not very godly and not very pious, they can also have wisdom. Allah will give it to them. Why would He? You will only gain from Allah the amount that you are attached to Allah. By being attached to Allah, your capacity opens. By your capacity opening, you get more from Allah. Hence, our Imams and Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, Prophet, Bibi Fatima, these were the true ma'adin of the hikmah of Allah, the place where the hikmah of Allah settles. Why? Because they were close to Allah, linked with Allah, devoted to Allah, worshippers of Allah, obedient to Allah, and humble before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. قلب ليس فيه شيء من الحكمة كبيت خرب. A heart which doesn't have any drop of wisdom is like a ruined house, a ruined property. He then says in another hadith, رأس الحكمة معرفة الله. You want hikmat? It is linked with the recognition of Allah, the cognizance of Allah. If you gain cognizance of Allah, He will give you hikmat. رأس الحكمة مخافة الله, مخافة الله. The root of wisdom is fearing Allah. So we are not surprised that here we are saying that Ahlul Bayt are the sources and the places where hikmat flows from being given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then it flows to the rest of us. Why? Because they were the closest to Allah, they had the most fear of Allah, they had the most recognition and cognizance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I think we'll stop here and look for any questions, inshallah. Okay. Salams, as not all knowledge is wisdom, how would we be able to define or recognize if what we are taking it from a mushrik, for example, is wisdom? Very good question. Especially if part of the definition of wisdom is that it takes us to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The answer to this is you need to check what you hear and what you read and what information you receive. You need to check it with a good, qualified, pious scholar. If you can reach to the maraji, that's the best, because they are the most pious and knowledgeable people in this world, apart from Imam Zaman. In the absence of the Imam, we have to check everything with ulama. Does it match with what ulama say? Does it match with, for example, what our hawza say? Does it match with what Qum and Najaf say? These centers of piety and learning, for centuries they have been there. We must check these things against the hawza. Don't just, whatever you hear, if you have a doubt, don't just think, okay, it must be true. No, check it. You must have a system of checking it. Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh. Wa alaikum salam. Could you please share the tips of increasing wisdom? Yes. So today we made one main point, which is ikhlas. Let's just suffice with that for now. Two things I'll say. One is ikhlas. Make yourself sincere, devote yourself, make sure everything you do is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That takes time, it takes training, but it can be done, inshallah. Why not? It can be done. So have faith and have strength of character and devote yourself and especially your ibadat for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And inshallah, then wisdom will flow. That's number one. And number two, ask Allah. Pray for it. Pray to Him that increase my capacity, increase the flow of wisdom to me. What about the greed in attaining knowledge? Yes, greed in attaining knowledge is good greed. It's like if I'm greedy in pleasing God, that's very good. Not all these greeds are bad. We are talking about worldly greed being bad. We're not talking about these praiseworthy greeds. I'm very greedy that, for example, I would be in the army of Imam Zaman. I'm very keen. I will do anything for it. That's a good way of looking at it. To please Allah, we'll do anything. This is a good greed. And so the greed in attaining knowledge is a good one. Okay, so that was our discussion on وَمَعَادِنِ حِكْمَةِ اللَّهِ, that the Ahlul Bayt are the places where the hikmat and wisdom of Allah settles. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.